the Macau GT Cup, the FIA GT World Cup here at Macau. But this is a significant GT race over the course of this weekend as well. It is one of our races that we have which is populated by local drivers. This is a huge event in the calendar for these drivers that will be competing in GT4 machinery. And I'll tell you what, David, walking around yesterday looking at the liveries, you realise just how much preparation, time and effort goes into getting these cars ready for this, which is a highlight of the year.
Absolutely, and although GT4 is a popular category in the region, there's a China GT, there's GT World Challenge Asia, which has a GT4 class. To be the star attraction, to be in a race of your own for GT4 machinery, that is quite something. And GT4 was a bit of a slow burn when it began, but now is a hugely successful branch of GT racing, and all the key manufacturers are involved.
Just getting a chance to have a look down the field. They've got quite a mountain to climb today because the conditions here at Macau are very often misty, but very warm, but predominantly dry. This weekend, not so. Yesterday it started to rain, it started to get very windy. There were concerns heading into today as to just how windy and wet it was going to be. Well, fortunately the wind hasn't caused too much of a problem, but the rain has been predominant all morning, and it caused the cancellation of our first session on track today for the Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix. They don't go around the streets of Macau in the wet. They don't even have the option of having a wet tyre. So motorcycles, the motorcycle riders got a bit of a lie in this morning, and they've got it all to do tomorrow. However, the weather forecast might be a bit changeable for tomorrow morning as well.
Yes, so if you're a motorbike rider, it's not great. But in GT4, these are really good cars around here. They've got lots of power, but they're not quite as big and unwieldy as the GT3 machinery. It's a really nice varied grid. It's one of the most colourful grids I think we've got as well.
Some of the liveries of these cars are just superb.
Exactly.
Including the one we're looking at.
Of Terence Say, yeah. So he's a man to watch. It's going to be a 12-lap race, but we don't have to worry about the race until Sunday. We get through practice and qualifying first. They've got Pirelli tyres, only 2 sets of slicks. So actually, these change in weather conditions help a little bit because they're not eating into the allocation of slicks. Yeah, that's right. So it's wide open. This is going to be really interesting once we get this session underway. It's going to be half an hour as well, but that flies by.
Get here, some of the engines firing up. It says "Come on, baby" on the side of that car with a big pair of lips, and they've got exactly the same on their team livery as well. It's very impressive. So the field are lined up in the assembly area, getting ready to get their free practice session underway. Free practice right the way. That livery is very striking in real life as well. The 72 car, so many of the liveries when I first came to Macau, so it's about 12, 13 years ago, it was all very shiny, very bright colours, but very shiny. That was the sort of wraps that they were doing on cars. Now, very much matte and silk finishes to the cars, and incredibly impressive when you see them up close.
Yeah, and it's a different culture, isn't it? It comes through in the artwork. Perhaps more traditional, you can see the sort of worked Aston Martin colours underneath the colour scheme there for Yang Meng Chao.
But then you put that extra bit down the side and make it definitive of this part of the world's racing. So it's lovely. It's a very interesting paddock to walk around. Very hot, because it's inside. It's in a car park, basically, on the first floor of an indoor car park. They've got huge fans to try and move the air around. But I was talking to a couple of the engineers, mechanics, and they say that they've learned over the years you have to take breaks. You have to go outside, get some fresh air, and then come back in and carry on your work.
It's difficult on every level.
It is difficult on every level.
The green flag is shown to get the session underway. Out first heads the Harmony Racing BMW of Liang Jiatong. And in theory, everyone pours out behind from the pre-grid. We've had a lot of heavy rain at the end of the previous session. The rain has stopped, but I'm afraid a drying circuit now is quite a wet road once again. So I say this in the hope they're going to listen. Discretion being better part of valour for the first couple of laps. They need to just tiptoe round, find out where the puddles are, and just get a bit of confidence before they start pushing. And it sounds uncharitable, but you know, sometimes the drivers do get here, and because it's such a big thing, they get a bit giddy. And we do see incidents early on in the session, so they all need to just be a bit relaxed and have a feel around on the wet part of the circuit, which isn't something they will have a lot of experience.
You're not going to prove too much now. It's free practice, it's half an hour. Just thread your way carefully around the circuit and keep the car in one piece. That would be the advice. Although we've got 2 stoppages for the GT3 cars, and both of them were stoppages that we wouldn't really have predicted coming out of the Macau. There were a lot of much quicker places that you could have had a problem in these conditions. And it was coming out of Macau.
Just by a little bit too much right foot too soon and looping the back of the car. The one other thing, that's the BMW in a real hurry, but one or two being braver than others. One thing you will see in this is the great variety. You've got Mercedes, Ginetta, BMW, Porsche, Toyota, McLaren, KTM, Lotus, and Audi, and Aston Martin. I think that's all of them, but it's a proper...
that's all of them.
A proper snapshot, if you like, of GT4 with all the available brands. And there, if you like, that gorgeous-looking Cayman, the sort of bullet-shaped Cayman, is the car that started the upturn in the interest. Because GT4, as I said earlier, was a bit of a slow burn. But the GT4 name and trademark was owned by Stefan Rattel's company, SRO Motorsports Group. And Porsche came along and said, we want to market a car as a GT4, but we understand you've got the rights to the name. And Stefan said, yes, that's right. We can do a deal, but why don't you build some cars to go into GT4? And Porsche said, oh, yeah, it's not a bad idea. We'll have a look at that. So they did. People bought Porsches, and Mercedes thought, hang on, there's a market there. We need to be in that. And so did BMW, and so did McLaren, and all of a sudden, it snowballed.
It's a great story, isn't it? It is a great story, and it is successful around the world. And to have such a huge variety of manufacturers embracing this Greater Bay Area GT Cup for GT4 cars here at Macau, just brilliant. And then when you, as I say, when you look around at the level of preparation of these cars and the presentation of the liveries and everything about this is great. We're looking forward to this over the course of this weekend. They are threading their way around, and just got the chance to have a look at the KTM Crossbow GT4 car. There it is, heading up the top part of the circuit, up to the completion of Sector 4, which will be completed at the end of this. And then we'll see the first of the flying laps about to be started here at Macau. Also a good opportunity because the rain came down at the end of the previous session, which was for the GT3 cars for the FIA GT World Cup. And already it's Macau that's caught us out, isn't it?
And it's under Ginetta that's gone straight on. Yeah, so that is going to clear, I confidently predict.
I think it is. Right hand down, first gear.
Go, go, go.
And off we go. So, yeah, they can all rather slowly funnel their way through. It's just, it's pretty tight in the best of times. You can't overtake at the Macau hairpin. You're not allowed to overtake over the course of the race weekend. But it's just been catching the GT cars out, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you get the line slightly wrong on the way in, you're never going to make it. You've got to have as much room as you can, so hard over to the barrier on the left to then sweep round that corner. And here, the faster part of the circuit towards the end of the lap, wet again after that heavy shower that we had. Yesterday was much the same. When it rained very, very heavily indeed. So 25 minutes on the clock. 1 or 2 being a bit heroic there, and did 2 come out the other side? They do. The one that was being the most courageous of all, up on the inside, is the Toyota driver, Han Chow, for Toyota Gazoo Racing China. And the Toyota Supra did get through in the end, but that was, considering the conditions, and it's only free practice, very brave.
We don't really need to be doing that, do we, on the first of the flying laps?
I wouldn't have said so,
no.
But there is a man who clearly has had a double espresso or 9 this morning because he's on his toes, isn't he?
It's commitment, isn't it? Because this is the opportunity that they get to drive around the gear circuit here at Macau. An opportunity throughout the year they don't get. It's only open for 4 days over the course of this weekend. And it's like they've been let out of the box, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that was part of my concern early on, that, you know, if anybody was going to get themselves in strife, it would be these drivers early on, but they've sort of sorted themselves out. Last year's GT4 race was stopped, if you recall, because of a track blockage here at the Macau hairpin. So we ended up with a Lotus 1-2, Lu Kai Lu winning from Adam Christodoulou, and the man you've just been looking at here was third last year, the Angiapton, with the Rover liveried BMW. The Harmony Racing run car, Harmony running cars in GT3 as well as in GT4.
Had that remarkable moment, didn't we, down at Lisboa last year, where Christodoulou just avoided at the back of the car.
Yeah,
do you remember?
right. Yeah.
What a moment that was.
Yeah. No, he made a move, didn't he? Or was it his teammate that missed him? He didn't know how close it was.
By about a centimetre. We saw him looking at the footage back on a phone.
Yeah.
After the,
and his eyes came out. Like,
on stalks.
Yeah, exactly. But no, contact was avoided by a gnat's crotchet.
That will live with me for a very long time. And I'm sure with him.
Yes. And he was completely unaware of it. We were getting all excited at the time. Only when, as you say, looked back on his phone, did he understand all the commotion. Right, the Angiapton then has done a lap time at 3 minutes 2. There he is. The BMW GT4, really strong car. These have had really good results in Europe. Now, the European circuit's totally different from this, but it's a good car, the BMW M4, as a GT4 concept. It looks ever so much like a touring car, more than a GT car. Put it up against the McLaren, for example. Real chalk and cheese, but it works.
It does the job, which is exactly what the category is about, because you see the proof of that when you see such a huge variety of cars entered into this race here at Macau. It can race against the best of them, and does.
Now, the other driver we need to keep an eye on in all of this is number 12, the Porsche driver Alessandro Giretti, who's won Carrera Cup France this year, and is another very, very rapid driver indeed. There is Hanli Chow's Toyota Supra, which of course is based on a BMW platform anyway, goes through and goes quickest, 3 minutes 1 and a half. So 3 minutes 1.591 for Hanli Chow. Can't think that we've had a Supra in the GT4 race before. I don't remember there being one last year.
No, I agree with that.
But they are increasingly popular cars in Europe with good results in the GT4 European Series. And Hanli Chow is absolutely flying, isn't he?
Yeah, so a best lap so far, just over the 3 minute lap, 3:01.5 over the course of that lap, but that is just the first flying lap of any around the gear circuit for the GT4 cars, so we've got plenty of time. But bear in mind, with the conditions and the lap times that we've got, we are, would you believe, almost a third of the way through this half-an-hour free practice session already. We've only completed one flying lap.
So Hanli Chow getting himself through the traffic and really hustling on. This car in the Toyota Gazoo Racing colours, the white, the red, the black, goes downhill past Maternity, Teddy Yip corners, and 3 minutes 1.591 is the top time then right now out of that cup.
We talk about the skier circuit here at Macau. It's world famous, it is iconic, it favours the brave. It's just a joy of a circuit. The great thing about this, the circuit doesn't change from year to year. It remains absolutely identical. Okay, areas of tarmac may change because these are regular everyday roads, so little holes are filled in, sections are re-tarmac, but the map that I use is the map that I've been using, the circuit map. I just have a little check before I come here to make sure they haven't changed anything, but it's the same map that I've been using for the last 13 years.
The only change is that at Police, I think the second of those two sharp whites, the barrier on the inside has been brought back a little bit. The corner ever so slightly opened up on the inside.
And in areas around the circuit, they changed the materials that they use for some of the crash protection, that kind of thing. So yeah, there are tweaks that happen to make things safer, make things more conducive to safe racing. But the layout of the circuit
absolutely.
is absolutely unchanged.
Yeah, you can't move many buildings, can you, to change the configuration of the track?
You can't move walls.
No.
You can't move the infrastructure of Macau as a city, and it's just, and also the phrase that really does apply here: if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah,
it's a superb circuit.
And it's one that the drivers love, which is why all the grids are full. And, of course, the races here are done effectively on an invitation basis. You don't just send an entry form in and expect a race. Certainly for this and the road sport races, it's an invitation-only concept. There, 55, that's the Ginetta of Kenny Chung. He's been a stalwart of the local races here for many, many seasons. 66 Porsche is Yang Zhaowei for the 610 racing team. Number 18 Mercedes Terence Tse. We saw him in the holding area earlier on. And we've got a new top time offered up now because number 37 of Deng Yi is the quickest. It's another BMW at the top, but he's gone fastest up by 1.7 seconds. And there he is, hard on the brakes, down to Lisboa, goes a little bit deeper into the corner, but still makes it nicely.
A BMW for quite a while, when they were getting young drivers involved in, if you like, the staircase of BMW GT opportunities, they would put them in one of these GT4 cars, in one of these BMW GT4 cars to assess. And many of the drivers that have gone on to achieve great things have started in the GT4 category with the BMW. These are proven, tried and tested. We were putting a question mark over whether in these conditions the GT3 BMW today was going maybe as well as they would have liked, because the BMW is not featuring during the previous, the GT3 session, not quite as near the front as perhaps we would have liked, but certainly in this session for GT4 cars, looking absolutely brilliant. So it is the car of Deng Yi that is top of the times, the number 37 car. The Win Here Motorsports entered car, Deng Yi from China, and tops the times with a 2:55.112. First of the cars to dip under the 3 minutes around the gear circuit, and now we've got a few more that have done. 21 car of Hanli Chao is currently in second place with a 2:56.9, and in third place it's the 99 car, and that's the BMW as well of Leon Xiaotung, Harmony Racing entered car. Have a look at the 66 car on this lap as well, because Yang Xiaowei is going pretty well in the Porsche. It's just gone purple in sectors 1, 2 and 3, so we need to have a look at this for the 66 car. Personal best in sector 4. I fancy that car may well go to the top of the times.
Yeah, it's all mixing together nicely, isn't it? Except for Brian Lai. He's got a problem on the way down to Lisboa, and the Ginetta has stopped. Now, in fact, he's on the way to Mandarin. He hasn't even got through the right-hand kink. So that's right at the start of the lap, and hopefully that car can get going again. But the concern would be why it has stopped, and it's just off the racing line. Yellow flag is out. Now, quite often, if a car spins and stalls, there's a sort of 30-second down cycle restart process that the race director will give it time for. But if it's ground to a halt because of a mechanical problem, it ain't going to get going again anyway. And I do rather fear that we're going to have the session interrupted to get that out of the way. You were right about Yang Zhaowei going fastest. He did a 2:52.1 to go to the top ahead of Deng Yi, and then Hanli Chao's Toyota third. Kevin Tse, probably one of the most experienced drivers on the grid. He's fourth. And Kevin Tse, winner in British GT, in GT3 machinery.
They need to be careful as well, don't they? Because when you've got a yellow flag shown here for a car which is stopped, and okay, you may be on a quick lap, you may be wanting to press on, but you are absolutely not allowed to overtake and to push push that to the limits and to get absolutely on the tail of another car.
Yeah.
You don't really need to be doing that in free practice, do you?
No, as you say, it does incur the wrath of the officials. Deng Yi ahead there of Leung Yan Vang. Kelvin Leung, I think he calls himself, doesn't he? But many of the drivers have a Western name they adopt. I'm pretty sure Kelvin Leung is how he goes. But Deng Yi coming towards the mid part of the lap, red flag. And I do fear that's because of the Brian Lai Ginetta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is such a striking livery. I mean, it's a wrap, but it's a work of art in itself. It looks absolutely superb. Well, it doesn't look so nice now, but before we started, and I'm sure it will be returned to absolutely tip-top condition, but very, very striking indeed.
So it's clearly mechanical. It ain't going to restart. And that Ginetta needs to be collected from the Parkview Motorsport team. It is that car operated by, and it's done the parking and people have done the viewing, but there's not much motorsport going on, so it needs to be made good. Free practice, the clock is still a-ticking as the cars come back to the pit lane.
That was a treat for GT3s, wasn't it, when the clock stopped, because it's abnormal. It's not usual for the clock to stop. It did so twice in the previous qualifying session for the Macau GT Cup, FIA GT World Cup. But for the GT4 cars, it will continue to count down, which means we are into the second half of this free practice session already.
The McLaren there making its way back to the pit lane of Wang Cheng-To, the 570S GT4. There is the Artura as well in GT4 specification available, but just the 570 represented. There, the KTM, hopefully, we might stay with this and the driver might open the door, because the bodywork goes up and forward. Let's see if they're going to do it. Give the driver some air. There you go. So the bodywork lifts and it sort of goes up and forward. There's no proper side door as such. It's just the roof section that, that
no
moves.
other car quite like it, is there?
It's great, isn't it?
It is totally unique.
And there is the Ginetta then, the Leeds-built car, ready to be collected. Again, this process doesn't take that long, but you can't do it with the session live. Some of the races have the provision for a full course yellow. This is not one of them. Otherwise, you could perhaps have the cars crawling round, dispatch the recovery vehicle. So it takes an element of time to get everybody back to the pit lane. Recovery trucks are numerous and positioned wherever possible. There are lots of gaps within the Armco to get the recovery vehicles out on track as soon as, but that car needs to be collected, as you can see. 84, Wang Weihong's Level Motorsports Mercedes AMG GT4 back to its team. And there's a great shot, isn't it, of the cars coming into the pits and the traffic going about its daily business alongside.
Come on, Van, you've got this.
Yes. Box, box, box.
Van. Yes.
So all of this eating into the half an hour that is available. The good news is that although cars are still coming into the pit lane, everybody has gone past the incident zone, so the recovery team already in operation. So it shouldn't take long once the last car is in to get things back underway. The local officials getting the timetable effectively through, because there's a very tight curfew at the end of the day to put the roads back to the traffic, and it is amazing how busy they become in a very short space of time. You know, 1 minute it's completely empty, roads aren't open, turn around, 2 minutes later, and it's just heaving with traffic.
2 minutes later, it's like the Melco hairpin in a GT3 free practice session. Yeah.
Except cars are moving. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's buses involved.
Exactly.
And lorries and all sorts of things. Yeah. And if you are relying on catching a bus, you could be waiting a very, very long time to go anywhere, because the amount of traffic that all of a sudden pours onto the roads takes a long time to get clear and to get normal traffic flow first thing in the evening.
So you're looking at Yang Meng Chow's Aston Martin. That is currently 11th in the times, and we've got less than a third of the session to go now. Big thumbs up from the driver, happy with his work. There is the car that's third, Han Li Chao's Toyota Supra. All cars still trickling down the pit lane, last few, but won't be long, I don't think, before we can get the session back underway. This not affecting the grid, although were qualifying not to happen, then you would take the times from this session. So it is still worth doing a good lap time, come what may.
So I just saw coming up on screen that car 37 is under investigation for passing under yellows. That's Deng Li, Deng Yi, who is currently second. And I think we saw that moment, didn't we, when that stricken car of number 2, Brian Lai, was just on the right-hand side of the picture, and yeah, it was all getting just a bit immediate, wasn't it? A bit too urgent.
Yeah, I mean, in the true wording of the rule book, the yellow flag, wave yellow flag, means danger ahead, slow down and prepare to stop. Yes. Most drivers think lift by a tenth. Yeah. And that's what they do. But yes, overtaking is an absolute no-no. So that might well come back to bite Deng Yi. And also, around this circuit, with the nature of the circuit, yeah, I would say it's not worth taking risks in free practice, not really. What would it be in free practice? What would you just have a stern talking to, or could there be potential ramifications for qualifying and potential grid places, or what do you think? We don't know. I'm not sure. If you've overtaken under the yellow flag, you would probably lose that lap time. Right. But a fine, I would think, would come on top of that. Yeah. We are 2 minutes away from the session restarting, so it's going to give them about 5.5 minutes. So by the time you take an outlap out of it, I know, if you're at the back of the queue, you're going to get one flying lap maybe. If you remember when the pit lane opened at the start of this, they'd done a third of the session by the time they completed their first flying lap. That's Kenny Chung we're looking at in the 55 car, just having a bit of a clean of the windscreen. That's going to be required. These cars are going to be getting pretty grubby out there on a wet circuit today. Do you know there's not really any prospect of this drying up today, is there? Looking at the circuit, it might get drier, could get drier. There's no break in the cloud, is there, suggesting that the weather is going to change markedly for the better. And with a weather forecast that tomorrow looks as if it might be a little bit challenging as well on the conditions. It's going to be a Macau Grand Prix weekend of two halves, I fancy. It's going to be wet today and tomorrow, and quite the opposite over the course of Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be entertaining, isn't it? First time we see dry running around the gear circuit at Macau is when they line up on the grid. Yeah. And potentially a grid based on cars that are good in the wet, and then it's dry. Yes. Yeah. So the green light at the end of the pit lane is about half a minute away, and so as the clock ticks on down, you can see we're going to have about 6 minutes. That's it. If you're at the front of the queue, fine. If you're at the back of the queue, you're really going to struggle for a decent amount of mileage. So big disappointment for the teams, and particularly, of course, for Brian Lai. He was 15th in that Ginetta prior to stopping on track. We're about to see if we're going to get one flying lap or two flying laps, because with 6 minutes remaining of this session, well, the pit lane opens now with 6 minutes to go, and they're going to want to press on this outlap, aren't they? Really press on. And a bit like we saw in GT3 terms earlier on, the teams needing to release the cars very quickly, rapidly, and now is not the time to say after you, Claude, is it? You've got to get out there. No, you've got to press on and get out of pit lane, which is what they're doing. But as we've already mentioned, we've got a very full grid. We've got a great entry for the Greater Bay Area GT Cup for GT4 cars, and they're all going to be wanting to do this press on this opening lap at the same time. There are one or two teams that have held the cars back, thinking it's better to have one clear lap than two in traffic. Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely, totally. And others, you can see, on their toes, and another BMW there, rather slow down to Lisboa. And I think it did make the corner. Yeah, it did. but just getting out of everybody's way.
That was Leung Keng Hay in the 72 BMW. Very striking looking car with that turquoise and black matte livery on that BMW. Very smart indeed.
But he's taking his time to really get dialed in to get up to speed, isn't he?
Yeah, we're maybe going to see the cars leaving pit lane and the rest of them left now, and I think you're right. Let's just go for one flying lap and make it a clear one, make it a meaningful one in the conditions. They won't be out again tomorrow. Today, the next time they'll be out will be tomorrow when they are qualifying at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning.
And they race on Saturday, don't they?
They do, yeah.
So Yang Zhaowei the fastest so far.
No, they race on Sunday actually. They're first out on Sunday morning.
That's right.
Yeah. So they get a day off on Saturday.
Repair time. 66 Porsche then.
Oh, yeah, little plane.
Yeah, that's it. Yang Zhaowei fastest, and seeing if he can go quicker again, but he will get certainly one flying lap, possibly two.
3 minutes and 37 is left on the clock. That's very much one of the points on the circuit, that tight right-hander, which can really catch you out over the course of this weekend. It just feels like the barrier lures you in. It's a very tricky part of the circuit. And so too this in a GT car, as we've seen in the wet today, threading your way around the Macau hairpin. So close you come to the barrier on the exit. You're slow, but slow for a good reason. You need to position that was a beautiful positioning, just coming around the Macau hairpin, finishing up in the middle of the road on the exit. That's rare. Normally right close to the barrier on the exit of that corner.
There you can see the nature of the road, still wet, still treacherous, still ready to catch out the unwary. So 2.5 minutes and a flying lap is just under 3. So these drivers are going to be greeted next time they come over the line by a checkered flag.
They will. 2 minutes and 20 remain on the clock, and the car that is currently topping the times from the Prix stoppage with the best lap, 2 minutes 52.1 for the 66 car of Yang Zhaowei in the 610 Racing Porsche Cayman.
It's all a bit busy here, isn't it? Coming down towards Mandarin out of Reservoir. There is Yang Zhaowei in the background. Han Li Chao and the Toyota has done an absolute best in the first sector on what's going to be the last lap of the session. But clear track space now is pretty vital, and Yang Zhaowei looking good as he comes up the inside of the Ginetta there through the traffic. But this is the fastest part of the circuit. You've got to be oh so committed and then really good on the brakes and find the turning point. Low racing cars, high barriers and a blind corner.
Into Lisboa, up towards San Francisco. The Porsche turns through San Francisco, up San Francisco Hill, and now onto this tight and twisty circuit-defining part of the gear circuit here at Macau, if you like, as the Porsche threads its way up there. Very rarely do you get a race car which is finished in beige, but that Porsche looks fantastic in that livery for this weekend, and is proving to be pretty impressive on track as well.
But this is the car that could top the times at the end of the session. It's going to be the checkered flag for it, I think, the Toyota of Han Li Chao. 2 absolute bests. Dropped a bit of time in sector 3, however. But he's got the road to himself as he comes then now down towards Fisherman's Bend, which
sector 4 has worked.
Yeah,
so that was traffic, wasn't it?
Yeah, seemingly another absolute best. There is 37 BMW, second quickest, Deng Yi. So it's going to be Toyota and BMW doing the chasing. There's another slow Ginetta, incidentally, that's just got across the timing line, the car of Can Che Wei. But this is Hanli Chao, ready to see if this is going to be the top time for the Supra. One corner to go as he accelerates then now up towards the timing line, and he's going to escape without needing to take the checkered flag by 3 seconds, and he goes quickest as well, 2:48.905.
By some margin.
3.2 seconds of a gap. So Hanli Chao ahead of Alessandro Giretti, then in the Porsche number 12, Carrera Cup France champion, 2 minutes 50.5, and Deng Yi third, 2:51.781. That's a mighty effort by Hanli Chao. And as I say, he's got one more lap. He just got through, 3 seconds to spare.
Deng Yi is third in the 37 car. And yeah, it was all about the very closing stages of that half-an-hour free practice. The 33 car goes wide down at Lisboa. I think keeps out of trouble. That's the Ho Car Meng car, the Ginetta G55. Once again, a very striking livery, pale pink and silver Ginetta for the 33 car of Ho Car Meng, getting it wrong down at Lisboa. And the clock has counted down to 0, and they continue to take the checker flag, but the car which has gone quickest, so the 21 car, has got one more chance of further improving. Hanli Chao.
No, he's not, because there's a drama on the road, and there is another stranded Ginetta. So Mercedes, I should say. So he gets round that car. Is that Kevin Said's car that has stopped? But with that yellow flag out, no chance of an improvement.
No, and that's a shame, because did well to get onto that lap, and that's reflected in the timing on the second sector. So down on the second sector went purple, did Hanli Chao on the first sector, but that time is going to stand, isn't it, as the top time. 2:48.905, 1.6 seconds, 1.5 seconds just over, quicker than anyone else in a free practice session which was of 2 halves.
So Hanli Chao's backed out of this lap, the single free practice session for the GT4 cars for the Greater Bay Area GT Cup. But an illustration of the popularity of GT racing, because the GT4 category in a pretty short space of time has become a staple of the Macau Grand Prix weekend, and another full grid. So Hanli Chao, this becomes the in lap. Even though he's not taken the flag, he won't be an improver. Whether or not the team tell him to back off and pit remains to be seen, but there is no point completing the lap on the circuit, because an improvement will not come. So Hanli Chao the fastest from Alessandro Giretti, and then Deng Yi third, Yang Zhaowei fourth, Liang Jiatong fifth, and Kevin Say sixth. And Hanli Chao almost at the end of the lap, almost therefore at the end of the session.
So local drivers competing in GT machinery for the Greater Bay Area GT Cup for GT4 cars. We will have local drivers competing on the circuit once again in a few minutes' time here at Macau, because it will be the Macau Road Sport Challenge. We've got plenty of road sports cars represented this weekend for the 71st Macau Grand Prix weekend. We have 2 categories for Macau Road Sports this weekend. First of them coming up at 1 o'clock local time. Time fast approaching 10 to 1. It's a busy day, isn't it, for free practice day?
Yes, the weekend always starts with an absolutely packed Thursday, because you have to have all these free practice sessions, and then as you get to Sunday, where you've got the main races, that's it, you know, one category, one track session, and it's a bit calmer, but that also, of course, gives you the ability to have the build-up to the different races, including for the Grand Prix itself, things like the Lion Dance, which is another staple of the Macau Grand Prix weekend. But yeah, Thursday, always a busy day. And it's a bit of a shock to the system, isn't it? Because people have been here. Wednesday's always a nice, relaxed day, setting up, chatting, and then suddenly Thursday, it's a full-on day.
Yeah, I reckon plenty of drivers, teams, people involved have a tricky night's sleep on Wednesday night, getting ready for Thursday, because it feels like you're waiting all year for it to happen, and now it's Christmas Eve. It's happening tomorrow. You're going to do it.
So there is the Mercedes that needs to be retrieved, And thankfully, because we were nearly at the end of the session, the red flag wasn't needed, but certainly a yellow was to warn people of a danger, and also the arrow, in other words, stick to either this side or that side of the road. So Lou Chuk in with the Ginetta coming to the pit lane.
It's been a little while now since we've had rain, and that's reflected as we just look out over towards the start-finish line. We can see that there are drier sections, not dry, but drier sections, as we get a confirmation of the result. Car number 21, the Toyota, going quickest impressively with a 2:48.9 of Hanley Chow. From the second place car in free practice, the number 12 car of Alessandro Goretti in the Porsche Cayman. The Z-Speed entered car second quickest. Third quickest was the 37 car. That's going to be looked at for something that happened when there was a yellow flag out on circuit. That's the 37 car of Deng Yi in the BMW M4 Win Here Motorsports entered car. From the 66 car in fourth place, and that's the car of Yang Xiao Wei in the 610 Racing Porsche Cayman as well. That brings to a conclusion the Greater Bay Area GT Cup GT4 pre-practice. Let's have a look back at some of the highlights of the last half an hour.